You're crouched in a cave. The fire just went out, and the cold is already closing in. Not the mild chill of a drafty room, the kind that locks your muscles, slows your blood, and starts shutting down your organs one by one. You have no fur, no thick fat layer, no way to raise your own body heat fast enough. Every other large mammal on this planet can survive a cold night without help. You can't. But that's not even the strange part. The strange part is what fire did to your body over 1,000,000 years. It didn't just warm you. It rewired you from the inside out until you couldn't function without it. Fire became as vital to you as your own lungs. And no other animal on Earth shares that bond. Let's turn the page. To understand how deep this goes, you need to stand in one specific place. A cave in South Africa called Wonderwerk. The name means we're a miracle in Afrikaans. Deep inside, past the entrance where sunlight dies, there's a layer of sediment roughly 1,000,000 years old. In that layer, scientists found something that shouldn't be there. Burned grass, tiny plant bits called phytoliths, scorched and blackened, not from a wildfire sweeping through. Wildfires don't reach the back of caves. This fire was carried in, tended, kept alive on purpose. Now picture the hands that did it. Not human hands. Not yet. These belong to a creature that walks upright but has a brain much smaller than yours. A heavy brow. A jaw built for tough, raw food. This is your ancestor, and they've just done something no other primate has ever done. They've trapped lightning in a pit of stones. But why does that matter? Plenty of animals flee fire. Some birds even spread it to flush out prey. What's so special about keeping a flame going in a cave? Here's what no one tells you. The fire didn't just change what these creatures could do. It changed what they were. And the first place it struck was the gut. You've eaten raw carrots before. Maybe some sushi, a salad. And you probably think your stomach handles it fine. It does, because those are soft, curated foods from a grocery store. Now imagine eating a wild tuber, something dug from hard African soil, dense with fiber, packed with starch your body can barely break down. You'd chew for hours. Your gut would grind away. And you'd still lose a big chunk of the energy locked inside. Now roast that same tuber over hot coals. The heat breaks open the starch before it ever hits your tongue. Proteins unravel. Tough fibers soften. Your gut barely has to work. That roasted tuber gives you far more usable energy than the raw one. Same food, same weight. But the fire did half the digestion for you before you even took a bite. This isn't a small edge. This is a shift in energy. And it didn't just make early humans a little more at ease. It set off a chain of changes that no one could have predicted. Think about it this way. Your body runs on a budget. Every organ costs calories to keep going. Your brain is the most costly organ you own. It's a tiny fraction of your body weight, but it burns roughly 1/5 of your daily energy. That's a huge bill. And for most animals, the bill is too high. Their guts are large, their brains are small, because the gut is already eating up the budget. But what if you could shrink the gut? What if something outside your body started doing the gut's job? That's exactly what cooking did. Over hundreds of thousands of years, the human gut got shorter and lighter. Not because of a genetic plan, because cooked food made a long gut wasteful. You didn't need all that intestine if fire was breaking down your meals first. And the calories that the gut no longer needed, they went somewhere else, upstairs, into the skull. Our ancestors' brains grew by about half. From a modest organ to the dense, hungry, pattern-finding machine sitting behind your eyes right now. The gut shrank, the brain swelled, and fire was the broker that made the trade possible. But that still doesn't explain why we can't go back. Why can't you just eat raw food and survive? Other primates do it. What makes you so fragile? Here's the trap. Your body adapted to cooked foods so fully that raw diets now leave you short on calories. Studies of people who eat only raw food in the modern world show steady weight loss, even when they eat as much as they want. Women on strict raw diets often stop having periods. Their bodies simply don't get enough energy to keep all systems running at once. You've been shaped by fire for so long that your body assumes fire will always be there. Take it away and the math doesn't work anymore. Now let's step outside the body. Because fire didn't just change your organs, it changed your nights. You're sitting in darkness somewhere in East Africa. No streetlights, no screens. The sun dropped below the horizon an hour ago, and for every other primate on this continent, the day is over. Chimps build their nests. Baboons huddle on cliff edges. Social life stops when light stops. But not for you. You have a fire. And around that fire, something remarkable happens. The circle of light pulls people in. Studies of the Hadza, one of the last hunter-gatherer groups, show that nightly hearth groups are far larger than any other primate gathering after dark. And what do they do around those fires? They talk, not about tomorrow's hunt or today's water source. Those talks happen during the day. Firelight chats are different. They drift towards stories, legends, arguments about who did what and why and what it means. This is where culture gets born, where myths form, where social rules get tested in debate. Some researchers have even drawn a link between hearthside talk and the way human language grew more complex. Fire circle debates among groups in the Pacific Islands show speakers using longer, more layered sentences than daytime speech, as if the relaxed, safe glow of the fire unlocked a deeper level of expression. Fire didn't teach us to speak, but it may have given us the stage to practice. And there's something else the fire did after dark, something quieter but just as vital. Raw meat is a gamble. Every bite of uncooked flesh carries passengers, bacteria, parasites, tiny life forms that evolved to exploit animal tissue. Your stomach acid kills some of them, but not all. And for early humans eating freshly hunted game, the risks were huge. Fire changed the odds. Heat at cooking levels doesn't just slow bacteria down, it wipes them out. A few minutes at the right heat, and the dangerous microbes on a piece of meat are nearly all gone. Sites where ancient humans cooked their food show fewer signs of bone infection than sites where food was eaten raw. Fire was public health before the phrase existed. But here's where the story takes a turn you might not expect. Because everything we've talked about so far, the gut changes, the brain growth, the social reach, the germ control, all of it points to one conclusion. Fire is not a tool. A tool is something you can put down. You can lose your hammer and still survive. You can drop your spear and find another way to eat, but you cannot put down fire. Your body has been reshaped around its presence. Your gut expects it. Your brain was funded by it. Your defenses lean on it. Your social world was built in its light. Fire is an organ you wear on the outside. Now, the obvious pushback here is about timing. Some scholars argue that bigger brains came first and fire mastery followed. They point to the gap between the earliest hearths and the sharpest spike in brain size, which came later. And they're right that other forces were at play. Climate shifts, hunting pressure, social rivalry. The story of human growth is never just one thing. But this pushback actually makes the case stronger, because it means fire didn't need to be the sole cause. It just needed to be the unlock. The thing that tipped the energy budget far enough to let the brain grow past a ceiling that had held for millions of years. Other pressures pushed. Fire opened the door. And there's one more twist that pulls this whole story into the present. You're not sitting in a cave anymore. You're in a city. Your fire now flows through copper wires and coated cables. It hums in the walls. It powers your fridge, your stove, your heater, your lights. You never think about it, the same way you never think about breathing, until it stops. Modern power grids fail more often than you'd guess. When the lights go out in winter, the clock starts ticking fast. Within days in a cold region, hospitals lose function. Water treatment stops. Heating dies. People begin to face the same threat that crouched at the mouth of every cave a million years ago. The cold, the dark, the raw. We built a world on the belief that our outside flame would never go out. And most of the time, it doesn't. But when it does, the speed of collapse reveals something ancient. We're still that creature in the cave. We just dressed the fire in a different skin. And that leads to a strange question. If fire is truly an organ, then what happens when species don't have one? Other animals survive cold through fur, fat, deep sleep. They digest raw food through longer guts and special bacteria. They dodge germs by instinct, by avoiding rot, by eating fresh. They don't need fire because their bodies do the work inside. We handed those jobs off. And in doing so, we gain something no other species has: the ability to live anywhere, eat almost anything, and think in ways that nothing else on Earth can match. But the price is lasting need. We traded self-reliance for power, and we can never trade back. Think about this. Even the most remote human groups on the planet, people living in tropical forests where cold is rarely a threat, still cook, still build fires every day, not because they'd freeze, because their bodies can't pull enough energy from raw food to stay healthy. The need for fire isn't about climate. It's about who we became. If this story gripped you, the one about how wolves chose us and became dogs holds a mirror to the same question from the other side. It's waiting for you right now. The grid hums tonight. The stove clicks on. And somewhere deep in your chest, a million-year-old flame still flickers, borrowed from the dark.